Good morning, afternoon, or depending on your time zone. This is the weekly VOLTHA TST meeting. And let's see. If anybody has any items they want to add on the agenda, feel free to add them in. Let me see. So I put just a couple of quick announcements at the top, just from talking to some people earlier, about a week ago. One, if you come across any problems or need to make any code changes, be sure to visit the Open Core Jira server and open up tickets for whatever enhancements or any requests that come in. So we'll be able to track them. You can just go in, click the create button. It should be change the project to VOLTHA and put a description in. I'm not sure if people may not have seen this before, but you can create tickets in here for tracking. All right, so let's get rid of this. And just a side note, there's a couple of mentions in on the website in docs VOLTHA.org under the contributing section. If you're going to submit code patches, they need to be accompanied with a JIRA ticket, just to document what's going in, and so we can flag the tickets for the release that they're going in, to do release notes and all that fun stuff. So, and there's links to the VOLTHA docs page if you're interested in reading it. So for well, it's one of the items further down. For the open JIRA tickets, I've been going, we had quite a bit of tracking content that was being maintained in the wiki server. And we lost a lot of that when we had to restore the server after the pages, after the server was attacked. So I've been trying to recreate some of the content that was being tracked in wiki over in a GitHub repository. And there's links to it in here. Basically, if anybody would like to go in and modify it, feel free, because this is all public. But I've got some links in here, the collections of tickets for like epics for VOLTHA for the releases, tracking VBSIM test failures, VOLT-CTL problems too. So there's one section, triage, in the VOLTHA, under the VOLTHA section. I've been going back in and prep for the release and starting to submit some more cosmetic changes to the repositories. There's no actual code changes. It's just making modifications to comments, copyright notices, all benign changes, submitting a lot of files to the repository and letting the job run to see if any failures show up. And these are no-op jobs, so they really shouldn't trigger anything. So far, some failures have surfaced in VBSIM. Those are probably not anything new. Another one did show up for VOLTHA Open OLT adapter. So this job triggered a failure. If we dig down into this one, this is just FYI. So for like Golang sources that are submitted, try and run make lint or do go format checking of the Golang sources that you're submitted. There's a source file that was checked in, what was it? Common.go, CMD OpenOLT adapter common.go. Go format was not run on the source file to apply standard formatting to the source code. So now submitting this, a modified version of common.go will trigger a lint failure until the file was run on it. I'll go in and clean this up after, but it's good to run make lint as part of getting your patches ready to check in, and that'll be less stuff to clean up. The other one, yes.
This link check, is this something new you added, or?
No, this is it's either Andrea or Matteo added it. It's been in there for a long time. The check probably wasn't triggered because the file hasn't been modified in a little while.
Okay, then the edits you have done these files causing this error.
Correct.
Okay.
Well,
No, I was expecting if there was some error in the files for formatting error, then they need to be caught before.
Yes. All I've done is I went in, like, here's one example in OpenOLT adapter common.go. I just added a comment at the end of the file, so there's no actual content changes, but that's creating a diff, which will end up running go format on the file, and that's when the failure showed up.
Okay.
See, I'll go through and I'll try and touch a bunch of the files too, and part of these triage jobs just to flush stuff out that may be lingering. Where'd my window go? Oh, and this is still a work in progress, so it's a little bit rough right now. But for like BBSim, on these pages, the top in the index, the top search button, that will pull up Jira with a bunch of search criteria. So like this search button tries to search for all of the BBSim tickets that are open. There's a pile of them. And we can decorate the tickets with labels after, so we can refine the search a little bit more to look for like BBSim test failures or just to make smaller targeted lists to go after. But like there's some test failures in here. Whoops, actually, sorry, wrong one. Where were they? I gotta fix this. The test failures link is pointing at the wrong page right now. It's supposed to be a page like this with Jira tickets and Garrett change sets, and they were pointing at the test failures. I'll have to go and clean those. I'll go clean those up after when I get done here. But like here's one of them, Vol 5125. These were some of the failures that were showing up specifically for the BBSim tests. But like I said, that's starting to evolve. Epics, yeah. I'll open up another set of release tickets when we start getting ready to press the release. It looks like somebody was beginning to add a few announcement items. Did you still want to make any announcements, or if you can hear my dog? Whoop, go ahead.
Yeah, I put it down below in the update. What's that? What was that? Yeah, down. Yeah, this is the Golang version update, which we would need because we updated the Sarama client, Sarama library in VOLTHA libgo, because the older one had one memory leak issue which we had to fix. So the new Sarama client requires newer Golang version. So the pipelines and all probably should be updated to Golang version newer. So that's something Joey also had put in the comment to bring it up in the TST.
Yeah.
Abhilash, do you propose to do it before the release?
Yes, Matt.
Oh.
Is there any input? Do you want to update the interpreter before the release goes out the door? In my mind, that kind of invalidates testing because changing the interpreter is pretty invasive, but I don't know if we need this for the release.
So what changes need to be done for this? Probably make files? Any
The
test machines?
any of the Docker images that are running are probably going to have to be updated. Side note, there's a Docker file. I got to go find it again. It was in one of the repositories. We're currently running, I want to say 116 in the build system. I've actually found reference to one of the Docker INI files that was installing and running with 1.13. So we have a little bit of a mix of Golang versions in the system right now. It's not horrible. It was just in one place.
Uh,
Um,
I'm trying to figure out how much change needed and what kind of systems affected by that. You say the Docker files needs to be changed. So other than that, do we need to do any change in test systems, for example, in build environments?
I would say you're going to want to rebuild Volta Protos since we have this is going to be essentially a different version of the Golang interpreter to make sure the prototypes are being generated in the same way. If the prototypes change, that's going to force having to rebuild everything else. And then you have to start testing everything after.
Yeah.
Mhm.
No, I know this. We need to build everything again and we need to test everything again. But in order to build and test everything with the new release, new Golang version,
Um,
what changes needs to be done? Which systems, in order to do tests, do we need to go update Go versions in test environments on servers? In order to do the build correctly, do we need to go install the right Golang version into the build environment?
yes.
And in order to run the builds with correct Go versions, do we need to go to change make files?
Um,
What else?
uh,
I think so. Only the Docker files would need a change where actually the build happens, probably in the night, whenever we push commit or then the build happens. There probably changes are needed. But for testing, I don't think so. Any changes would be needed. Correct me if I'm wrong, Joey. But because they anyway will run in Docker, so I think so. Once the build is done, I think so. There shouldn't be any dependencies on the run.
you could you could probably build or not probably you could build with a newer version and test with the older version. For consistency, though, I would think you probably want to be running a consistent interpreter version on both the build machine and the test machine, just to make sure there's, excuse me, no latent problems.
Okay, Abhilash, are you going to do this change or
Uh,
this
the
Docker?
change,
Yeah.
yeah, the changes here should be done in the build environments mostly. Why? Because the other ones, I think so, should be up to date. There shouldn't be any problem with the other. Anyway, for the testing, see, once the Docker is built with the new Golang version, it runs as a Docker, so it runs with whatever it has built.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, so that should be fine. But where our tests run, when the linters, the builds, whenever we push changes in the pipelines, there we will have to change because there it runs on in a Docker, and that Docker is using an older version of Golang.
Oh, lint is we may see, I just think of how to phrase this. The lint reference is actually a good one. We have potential for, I don't know if this is going to happen or not. We'd have potential for new source failures because when the Golang interpreter is updated, We're also going to pick up any changes in the Golang formatter between 116 and 120 or 121, whatever we're moving to. We should just do a sanity run on the repositories to make sure that there's no new syntax changes that the Go formatter might be looking for. That's a potential source for failures. It's not bad though.
Yeah. If something comes up, probably I'll take it up and we'll be able to fix it immediately. That shouldn't be a problem. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, if we're going to do that, then we have, I think, 1 week to do that. Is that correct? I mean, 1.5 weeks. Probably after the next week, people will be, on vacation, etc. So we need to figure out this in a week, I guess.
Okay.
Abhilash, another question. If we don't do that, so what's the outcome? Or what is the mitigation? I mean, do we need to revert the deep go patch or what?
No, actually, we haven't. We have raised the review. We have not. It's not merged yet.
Mhm.
So we can only, because the pipelines fail now. So we'll not be able to merge once the pipelines are green. So for the pipelines to go green, we'll have to update the Golang version.
Side question, if the pipelines are failing, could a conditional be put in temporarily to make that a non-fatal condition? Eventually, we'd want to move to the newer version of Golang, but so we don't have persistent job failures until Golang is updated.
And because nothing will run on Volta libgo if we skip it. So any errors, anything which is breaking will not be caught in that if we skip it.
Well, like sometimes you can version method calls and only invoke the new logic when the interpreter is new enough to run with it.
Yeah,
And
that would probably require a bit more work. Why? Because the Docker, I'm not sure how the pipelines run, but
okay.
the Docker where the build happens probably is a common one between all of them. So it has to have a different, you have to have a different Docker for Volta libgo and a different for others.
Okay.
So I think so it would take up more time instead of changing the Golang.
So now we're going to, edit these pipelines to be successful on this patch. Then we're going to merge this patch. Then we'll update all the components with the new lib version
Yes.
and test them with this new lib version.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Probably we can start off with where all in the pipelines the changes are needed for the Golang to be bumped up, and then we can revisit and see how long it may take or what impact it could have.
Okay, then if there's no objection, I think it can be doable.
Okay. Does anybody have any updates that they would like to cover before we go on?
Joy, on another
Mhm.
on the VGC tests on the nightlies and also on the pipelines.
Yep.
So we also want this to be as part of the release, like at least, okay, fine, the VGC is now up and working with all the test suits with the DT workflow at least. So if that we can have the VOLTHA system that's a nightlies up and running. That would be good. I think so. One of my teammates has already got in touch with you.
Yeah. We did open a Jira ticket for that. I've got to go dig that up. Yeah, that's on my list of things to do.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
Mhm.
I have a few comments about the tests and a request from Jan. You probably saw in the Slack, Jan, I asked Christina to reach out to me when she's back. I think we need to work together to do the irrigation switch configuration and the BNG configuration again. There's something probably missing, or some changes need to be done on both BNG and ONOS configuration, ONOS that's controlling the irrigation switch together. So we need to find a slot to work together to do this configuration, because the Türk Telekom workflow is failing currently. I did some changes on BNG side, some interface change, and succeed to test a few more tests, but still there are some configuration issues, I guess. As I said, involved both on ONOS side and on BNG side, so we're better to work together to go through all of the configuration and fix the lacking parts. Okay, is that possible?
Yeah, sounds good. I think like it should be like possible probably, like I think Christina should be back like Friday, I think. So yeah, maybe starting next week or something.
She said she will be back on 13, so I was expecting her to be back on Wednesday, tomorrow.
Yeah, I need to check. Like there's a lot of stuff going on towards the end of the year, as I guess it's probably for all of us. So I need to check who's available when, but yeah, so towards the end of the week or starting next week, I think we can probably try to continue working on that.
Okay. I'm in California, so we have a 9-10 hours of gap. I'll be available mornings and evenings, no problem, okay? Anytime works with her.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. Does anybody have any more update items that that they'd like to add? Okay. So failing that, we'll move on to the VOLTHA 2X roadmap. Let's see. Mahir, would you like to drive?
Why do we go through this roadmap? We went through it at the last meeting.
Okay.
The previous meeting. So we don't go through roadmap items every meeting.
But I think wasn't there a request for people to look at it? Okay. And just Jira tickets. As I mentioned, I'm trying to digest, go through my backlog of all the tickets that are open and get them into, make them searchable and be able to track status on them to keep track of which ones are being worked on and what problems are out there. Let's see.
So, so a code freeze is coming up. When is the code freeze planned?
Let me see. I think it was the 12th, maybe. Yeah, it was the.
I think we said the 2nd of the January.
Yeah.
Second of January. So do we have a a list somewhere of what's anticipated to come in for that code freeze, or is still pending? How is that tracked?
In the.
You mean which tasks or like release notes?
Well, I mean, I guess I was thinking of code coming in. To me, release notes is a summary of what went into the release, or maybe you're thinking of it as one of the tasks. I'm curious what is still pending. What are we expecting to be coming in? Is there a way that's tracked, or is that just kind of chaotically left open until there's a code freeze?
Okay, because there is no big feature that is in progress.
Mm-hmm.
There are only some open tasks for some bugs. As soon as we can get any of them into the release until the freeze time,
Mm-hmm.
the patch that are waiting, we will get them. Any patch that are not ready until the freeze time, we will leave them for the next release.
Okay, that makes sense. So no big features, but patches and bug fixes. So then, is there a list of bug fixes, and is there a list of owners against those bug fixes? Are there commitments to get to them? Are any of them critical? I mean, what you said is anything that doesn't get addressed, we just skip. Does that mean none of them are critical?
I haven't seen any critical Gerrit issues, Gerrit patches,
Is there a list somewhere? Sorry, I'm asking kind of the naive questions. I'm just kind of observing from the outside.
If you go to the Gerrit and check the open issues, open patches, this generally, contains both, VOLTHA and the other ONF projects.
You can also go. Sorry. You can also go into Jira under the VOLTHA space or VOLTHA project. You can run queries. The fixes that are going in for the release usually have a version string under the fixed versions for in this case, VOLTHA 2.12. I suppose you could query by affected version if that field has been filled in for the open tickets. So to answer your question, you can get a full list of the bugs and the features that have had tickets open for them. And you can use these two version strings to query for open records, probably affected version would be the version you'd like the change to go in for. And the fixed version is the patches that have actually gone in for a specific release.
Okay, so I mean, I may be asking about something that doesn't matter. I don't know, but just observing right now, it doesn't seem like there's anybody who's really collecting or thinking holistically about the remaining set of things that are to be checked in. Is that a correct observation? I mean, I used the word chaotic before, and I don't mean that to be negative, but it's essentially kind of just trusting people are all kind of doing their part, and there's nothing that's critical enough that requires that kind of oversight. So I guess from the silence, I guess that's yes. Now, I don't know if that's a negative or not. I'm not making a judgment. It's an observation, right? But I would have expected there'd be somebody to kind of be holistically looking at the release, kind of open issues and things that are coming, to have a sense of, I mean, why don't we call a code freeze tomorrow? Why are we waiting for January 2nd?
I'd say it's mainly for vacation coming up.
But if there's no more code coming, between now and January 2nd, that's the point I'm making. Or I don't know. I'm just trying to better understand, what the expectation is. I mean, here you have a thought on this. I mean, is everything? I mean,
sir, this is Amit. So I thought, Abhilash, there were certain things that you were tracking, right, which needs to be merged before the release, right?
Yeah. I was waiting for Tim to finish up. Yeah, so we have few things which are already EMRs are raised, they are under review. So we have a few things which have to go before the release is done. So yeah, from the DT and Radis's perspective, yes, those are the things, and I am following it up from our team to get it reviewed and merged. But as a complete from Volta perspective, there is, I think so, nobody following up on all the defects which have to go in. I think that's what Tim meant, right?
it is, yeah. And so, okay, that's good to understand. Thank you. And are the things that Radis is planning to get in, are those tracked in Jira? Those are all tracked kind of on your own tools.
Yes.
Yes, they are. So yes, they are in Jira.
Yeah.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, I mean, currently, the most important thing for me is to, make the tests passing. So my side, I'm trying to follow the hardware tests and their status and make sure that they're running and all tests will pass until the release time.
Mm-hmm.
On the other side, yeah, we need to go through all the Jira and Garris patches, you're right. We try to reach out people and trigger them to review the patches standing there. So to bring as much as patches that we can bring into the release. We still have some patches waiting. Yes, we should track them and see if people are going to review, and if there are some comments on any patches, if the owner is going to check them and target them for the release or not. You're right, it should be tracked. We're trying to track that, but not a perhaps complete manner. So partly on both sides, from Radis's side and from our side, we're trying to partly follow something. But this is mostly because, there's no, as I said, big feature that coming in and need to be tracked completely, end to end. It's mostly the small patches for small bug fixes we have now currently. And I guess people are trying to bring before the release date. That's why we are targeting a freeze date to let people to to make their patches finalized, you know, the waiting patches, the patches currently open, to let people to, you know, close these patches and make them to reviewed and merged.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Thanks for helping me understand.
We're announcing here, we announced at the last meeting and previous, the one before it, and perhaps each and every meeting until the release, that please go through your Gerrit patches, make them, ask people to review them and try to merge them. And also go through your tasks in Jira for the fixed, you know, bugs and resolved issues. And please close them. And please put the correct fixed version on them so that we can collect the release notes from this, you know, task correctly.
So the first thing you mentioned was the number one thing you were looking for is to get the hardware test pipelines working. And then I presume that also means or implies the Turk Telecom one, since it's
Yes.
been. So where are we with that? What's, I guess,
yeah. From the last week to this week, we had a lot of failures in these jobs, but mainly, you know, they were about some missing files. And I, you know, put a patch in Gerrit for these missing files, and we start to test with them. But now there are some configuration issues on the system. Christina was off in vacation, so we couldn't work with her, but we worked with Joy, and we connected to test system and make some interface changes on BNG. And, you know, we succeeded to run some of the tests, to pass some of the tests currently, but still have some issues. I see there are still 2 issues on the system, probably caused by 2 misconfigurations we need to fix. Next week, probably, as Jan indicated, we can work with Christina to fix these issues, because
So I just like quickly chatted with Jokin. So it should be tomorrow. I was wrong. It's not like the 15th, it's the 13th. And as far as I understand, like there is a very concrete idea of what needs to be changed there, right? At least like from what I read. So yeah, it sounds like there should be some progress tomorrow and then towards the end of the week in regards to those pipelines.
Yeah, I hope we need to, I mean, I have something in mind, but I don't have access to these servers, you know. I don't, only BISTN and ONF guys can have access to reach out these servers and test systems. So I don't have access and cannot check if they're, you know, correctly configured or not. So I need Christina to work together. I have some, you know.
don't we have backup for Christina? Is Christina Jan at this point the only person working on this from BISTN?
So from the BSN side, we're currently trying to manage resources towards the end of the year because more and more people are going on holidays and we need to finish a lot of different projects. So yeah, Christina is the one mostly tracking this right now. But yeah, so we're trying to find people to basically do this. But as you know, it's pre-Christmas time, so people are going on holiday.
Okay. And then let's say in January, how many people from BISTN are available to work on this project? Let's get the holiday issue out of the way.
So in January, it's like it's basically on a different piece of paper, right? So I mean, there's this agreement that we can somehow try to continue until end of the year to give the TST time to think about the offer. For next year, yeah, I guess we have to figure it out, because I mean, we have to figure it out very soon, because we're also are planning our resources for other projects right now. So, I mean, so far it seems there will not be any continued contract, at least as far as I understood. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it depends a lot on how we can continue this week or next week on an agreement in terms of the contract. I think the agreed upon let's do time and materials runs out end of December. And then for next year, we need an agreement, I guess, to continue this.
Yeah, understood. I'm glad that you brought that up, because I had not been thinking that you were thinking of December being an end date. You know, my working and planning assumption is continuing on a time and materials beyond December. There is still, you know, a bunch of active discussion and whatnot. You know, we're kind of in the middle of the broadband board taking kind of more I guess, responsibility, you know, and kind of in that phase, they've been trying to come up to speed on the BISDing contract and a bunch of other issues, and yet they are a board. It's not their day job, so it's slowing things down. But I apologize that I haven't communicated directly with you, Jan, on this. So we should be
so
thinking,
I mean, the assumption from my side is really based on this email that where it says like through December. So I assume that it will just run out then in December. So I think it would definitely be good. We don't need to do that here in this meeting, but it would definitely be good to like have a discussion on like how we wanna continue doing that, and yeah, what the terms basically are for this. Because I mean, we're still interested in continue helping there, but then on the other hand, we also need to plan our resources for other projects for next year. So we need to figure out how we can schedule people, and yeah.
No, I totally get it, you know, and I thought that the board would be kind of through this by December. That's why we set the December date, but it's taking longer. So just know that I think we want to continue beyond December. Number one, we'll have a follow-up discussion outside of this, and I'll also bring this back to the board. Okay.
Sounds good. Thank you.
We have any more items that anybody would like to discuss about, you know, Jira tickets, problem fixes, whatever? Well, I guess the floor is open if anybody would like to add anything.
So maybe one thing, I don't know if that was mentioned yet from the DT side in terms of the failing DT pipeline. So this parts about the data plane tests. So the data plane tests are failing because the limits that are configured seem to not be reached, or seem to not like fit to the expectations. We were assuming that this is fixable by an update to the ONUs, and DT now gave me this update that the update is not for the ONUs that we're using there. It's for another type of ONU. It's for this Telekom Glasfaser Modem 2, and we're using a different GPON mod ONT there. So we cannot update the ONUs, so it's not related, I guess, then, or at least not a known issue. So we would still need to decide how we go about those tests. I think Mahir suggested a while ago to drop those tests because they're not done on the TT side either way. I don't know if that's still the case, but we would need to decide how we go about them, because basically all of the other, or we got all of the other stuff to succeeding, but there's still this outstanding part for the data plane tests that are not working, and now we verified that we cannot fix them by a firmware upgrade because there is no firmware upgrade for these specific ONTs there.
Are these bandwidth related tests?
Yes. So there is data plane tests. Let me open this up here. And these data plane tests, maybe I can share my screen, then you can quickly see what I see. You see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah, so this is the DT pipeline, and there's these data plane tests where basically it says like the upstream bandwidth guarantee was not met, 47 of reserved, I guess, and that's the ones that are basically failing right now for, yeah, those different things. I'm not sure. I was hoping that it was related because there's a known ONU issue for this other ONU apparently that gets fixed by a firmware upgrade, which sounded very similar in terms of the issue is that if you configure more than 20 megabits, it's still only going to 20 megabits, doesn't matter what you configure. But it seems to be not the case. So there is these issues here. Those are the outstanding ones, and we need to decide if we try to investigate further with the ONU, try to go into these tests, or if we drop them. I'm not sure if they're done for the Turk Telecom side of things. I think, if I remember correctly, you mentioned that they're not. So, yeah.
In Turk Telecom side, they are now added. You know, actually the lacking input file you previously mentioned, and I added
Yeah.
this was triggering these bandwidth tests on Turk Telecom side. But
Okay.
the thing is, after we put them into the Turk Telecom pipeline, we probably see some failures in Turk Telecom test as well. Because some of them, these limits of some of these tests are hard-coded for XGS-PON. So they are very high for the GPON. And they have never tested in GPON. And here we have a GPON code, GPON test.
Yes.
So probably on Turk Telecom side also, when we come to these tests, after the sanity test, and we come to tick on type test, the bandwidth test, we will see some failures there also. But we can drop this XGS-PON related test, but I don't think the DT test cases are also, I mean, technology related. They're probably written for the GPON, and they need to be, I mean, pass, I guess. So
the thing about these tests is that the pipeline seems to work, right? I mean, everything else is working.
right.
So I would assume that a failure there means that there might be something broken then in the VOLTHA code in regards to what is configured.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, like, there's usually two reasons for a test to fail. Either the test is broken or the software that it tests is actually broken and the test is working and telling you exactly what you want it to. So I don't know, like, but this is hard for me to decide here because like we had this discussion a while ago and like I checked this firmware part. So yeah.
Then might it be an option that we change the ONTs with the newer ones where we have these fixed, these new software? Might that be an option?
In general, yes. Long term, yes. Short term, since there's so many things hard coded, it is a lot of work to change ONTs right now. So we can try to do that. But that means a lot of reconfiguration, a lot of different places in terms of where the serial number is used, how the containers are connected, stuff like that. Probably also on the VOLTHA side, I would need to check. Maybe Mahir knows what we would need to change on the VOLTHA side if we have a different ONU there. So I mean, I'm still in Berlin. I could come over and like recable stuff, but I'm not sure if this is the
what I hear is that just recabling or just replacing ONTs is just a tiny part of that of the whole change which is needed. But give me at least an indication how many of these ONTs we have to exchange so that I can reserve it in our lab.
Yeah, so I
Do you have a
don't know if we
number?
have to, right? So I don't know if it is actually a hardware issue, if it is a VOLTHA configuration issue, or if it's a test issue. I think this is the part where we're still trying to figure out. We wanted to like make sure that it's not this firmware thing that you mentioned.
Yeah, I know.
It seems to be not the case. So now we're back to square one, basically, where we have to see, is it like what other kinds of things could make this fail. So I think what Mahir mentioned is a good part of like maybe checking if it also fails for the Turk Telecom one. I mean, if it succeeds there, then we kind of know that it's a hardware issue, I guess. If it also fails there, then we at least know that it's not a specific broken hardware, but maybe a configuration thing. Yeah.
Okay. The priority here on if on BISDN side you have limited resources and need some prioritization. I think the Türk Telekom workflow is has the most highest priority, because there we cannot test the VOLTHA software now. But the bandwidth test, probably you said there because of the ONUs, etc. So we should first test as much as we can do the main features of the two workflows. So I guess fixing these issues in Türk Telekom workflow for the sanity tests is the top priority for us. Because
I would agree. I just wanted to bring that up as an additional point, because we were at the end of the meeting.
Telecom, so at least we have the sanity tests working, fine. So we have to have this same state on Türk Telekom workflow also.
Yeah, exactly. And if we get to the state on the Türk Telekom side, we would then also see if the same tests are failing there, and then we, can make some assumptions based on that, I think.
Yeah, on that bandwidth issue for the DT workflow, which OLT and which ONT is used?
So the OLTs, I think, are the same for all of the pipelines. It's this edge core GPON one. And the ONUs are also GPON ONUs from Sercom, basically. I think they're all the same type. I would need to check the exact serial number.
Okay. I can take a look at the bandwidth issue, whatever is faced there. Where can I get the logs, if at all there are any, for this?
So on the pipeline itself, let me share my screen again. That's the easiest way to explain.
Yeah, I can look it up by myself if you can find me to.
No, that's fine. So you should be able to see my screen again, maybe. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so basically, they always like fail with the same thing here. It's in the data plane tests, and if you want to get the logs, you can basically go to the pipeline, like let's say to the last one, and then you should be able to either check the console part, which gives you the console log of everything that it went through. The issue there is you don't get detailed outputs for the actual calls that were made. You just get the output that robot basically returns. So that's where you can kind of check what kind of test failed. And then there's at the bottom here, there's this open log parts. It should be possible to look at them. Sadly, there's something wrong with Jenkins or the interpretation. I don't know. I can't look at them, but you can download them as zip. And then you can open them, and then you would look into this log file here. So see, I can't open it because, my JavaScript is not enabled. I tried that in a bunch of different browsers. It doesn't work for me in any browser. But if you download them and then open this data plane test log HTML, then you get very detailed output of what call was made. So you basically on the shell level of what happened.
Abhilash, are you looking for the container logs, like OpenVLT, Open ONU adapter logs?
Yeah, the container logs actually. These probably will give the script logs, right? What all inputs were given.
Yeah, exactly. So this is like what was called basically to check the output. I don't think we have specific logs from inside of the containers.
Okay.
At least not to my knowledge.
Okay. Okay, because I think so we'll have to collect those because
I would think that even the container logs were getting collected at some point of time. I think we were using Kale, and when David had written a script to collect all the logs from the containers, I'm not sure where it is right now, or did it just get lost in the way?
Sorry, I had a call, so missed some of part you're discussing, but in Jenkins job, we have the logs of the containers collected, I guess. They're in a zip file.
Yeah.
So there are robot results and there are also container logs collected, but combined in a log. So when you go to the Jenkins job itself, so you see the artifacts collected on top of the page.
okay, let me check that. I'll check and I'll see if I can find something on some logs there.
Yeah, you can actually go to this. I think this is only done for successful jobs. I don't know, but you can. But since the jobs are always successful, that's fine. So you'll get it, and then you can go through those zip files, and there's also some outputs for. So let me share my screen again. Sorry for jumping here. So if you go to this job again, there is like artifacts here. I will need to check if you can also get them for other jobs. But if you go to this one, for example, then you get a lot of different artifacts, and probably one of them might contain the.
Can you go to the pods? I see some pods. First one, yeah.
Yeah, I looked into that, but this looks more like boring information about. So no, maybe it's in one of them. I don't know. Like the names look to me more like not so interesting, but.
No, these are for pod describe commands and images, etc. commands. But the previous one has the logs, and the logs are collected for different tests stages. For example, insanity. So say that insanity test stage, there are 4 or 5 tests. Then all these tests in sanity stage are combined in, say, sanity test combined log. If you go into this log, there are the logs from all containers. You know, all Volta components, ONOS components are combined, merged in a single log.
Okay. Yeah, that's true.
Also,
yeah, there is like a combined,
yeah,
like gigantic combined file. So it's like a 19 megabyte text log file, but it hopefully contains everything from the pods. So maybe that's useful.
Yeah, also agent logs are there. You know, OpenOLT agent logs also are.
Yeah.
Agent logs, dev management logs, etc. are there. You can see all of them in this files.
So yeah, for this job, yeah, you can basically go to the number 60, for example, the last one, and then you can download different things there, and maybe that gives more information about what happens in the containers.
Okay, sure. Thanks. I'll check.
yeah, I mean, in general, agreed. This is not the priority. I just wanted to like bring that up because that was the last piece missing for the DT pipelines, I guess, or is the last piece missing for the DT pipelines. And hopefully the TT pipelines can, yeah, continue to work soonish or happen to work soonish. So Joey wrote in the chat that he'll be right back. So I don't think he'll take over the moderation again. So if anybody else wants to.
It's back, I guess, but if we're top of the time, so if nobody has any comments, anything to bring up, we can close the call, I guess.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Okay, last call. Thanks.
Thanks, bye.
Yep, bye.
Thanks, everyone.